Podcast 299, a scholarly textual analysis of Orchid Imagery in Barbados. Copyright 2026. ISBN 9798 90553 4461 by yours truly, Dr. William Anderson Gittins, D.D. Welcome to podcast 299. Today, we're diving into the literary works of yours truly, Dr. William Anderson Gittins, D.D., and my 472 e-publication, a scholarly textual analysis of Orchid Imagery in Barbados. Copyright 2026. ISBN 9798 90553 4461. We'll explore how photographs of a tropical residence and various orchids communicate cultural meanings about habitation, beauty, and biodiversity. Orchids are really amazing, and analyzing them as visual text becomes a semiotic dialogue or visual rhetoric analysis. Therefore, I'm sure this topic will pique your curiosity. I'm reading their physical characteristics, colors, forms, textures, and growth patterns as symbols that convey literary, cultural, or emotional significance. Therefore, the question of what makes orchids so significant culturally goes beyond their aesthetic value. Orchids have a remarkably rich symbolic history. The term itself comes from the Greek word or testicle due to their tubers, associating them with fertility and virility. But Chinese traditions, for example, saw them as symbols of integrity and refinement. Online Etymology Dictionary. Today, as I broadcast from the beautiful island of Barbados, I would like to point out that they stand for love, beauty, strength, and even ecological diversity. In this context, the range from fertility to integrity can be emphasized as well, which makes perfect sense given how many there are. Given the foregoing, it makes sense to wonder if they are actually present everywhere, with an estimated 28,000 to 30,000 naturally occurring species spread across about 880 genera. The Orchidaceae family is one of the largest on Earth when all else is equal. Savista.com. They are remarkably adaptable, living on almost every continent but Antarctica. However, tropical and subtropical areas like Barbados are where they are most diverse. In the scheme of things, it should be mentioned that the Barbados Orchid Society, BOS, is a thriving society devoted to orchid cultivation and enjoyment. Since its founding in 1939, the organization has developed into a major force in the orchid culture of the island. The Society's accomplishments and activities are highlighted here. www.barbadosorchidsociety.com. Orchids in Barbados is home to a number of important sites devoted to public education, orchid conservation, and orchid production. Tropical Garden Barbados, formerly Orchid World, is one of the most well-known. It is situated in St. George. More than 20,000 orchids can be found at this 6-acre botanical facility which replicates the growing conditions of a rainforest, Gittins 2026. Other horticultural locations consist of Grenade Hall Forests, Hunt's Gardens, and Andromeda Botanic Gardens. The island's ecological legacy and floral richness are greatly enhanced by these species. As a photojournalist, cinematographer, media arts specialist, podcaster, publisher, and cultural theorist, I've made the decision to use my lenses to highlight their incredible variety of colors, including pink, white, purple, yellow, red, blue, orange, and even green, each carrying unique symbolism and appeal which may be characterized as mind-blowing and include rare varieties of black and moon white. Thus, orchids and a tropical home are the subject of my novel. Now that I've put this topic in context, I imagine you're wondering how a house turns into a visual text in all of this, and whether it's similar to reading a house. And the answer is exactly. All things being equal, the multi-story home in the first image, all things being equal, the multi-story home serves as a signifier of permanence and domestic identity, because as a cultural theorist, my method highlights the crucial role that natural language plays in forming culture and its semiotic components from a semiotic standpoint. When everything is taken into account, architectural features like balconies and light-colored walls convey sophistication. An idealized, integrated tropical lifestyle is suggested by the contrast between the white exterior and the tropical flora, which creates a visual conversation between man-made and natural ecosystems. From an architectural and aesthetic standpoint, a house's design tells a story in every genre. The story is further enhanced by the orchids such as the golden phalaenopsis that exudes elegance, and the striped orchids that display a distinct refinement. So now that I have contextualized and analyzed my 472 e-publication, a scholarly textual analysis of orchid imagery in Barbados, copyright 2026, ISBN 9798905534461, then we conclude that it's all about this harmonious tropical identity, with the orchids showcasing both beauty and environmental responsibility. As we conclude podcast 299, we see that orchid imagery extends far beyond decorative beauty. Through the analytical framework developed by yours truly, Dr. William Anderson Gittins, DD, 2026, orchids become powerful visual symbols representing biodiversity, resilience, refinement, and environmental stewardship. Likewise, the tropical residue functions as a symbol of domestic identity and permanence. Together, architecture and orchids create a visual narrative that illustrates harmonious coexistence between built and natural environments. Ultimately, these photographs demonstrate how visual texts can communicate cultural values, ecological awareness, and aesthetic meaning while transforming ordinary spaces into places of significance. Although orchids are not directly mentioned in the Bible, collectively their qualities, beauty, purity, resilience, divine love, and renewal are reflected in Scripture. Psalm 19:1, Matthew 5:8, James 1:12, and Isaiah 35:1-2. By meditating on these verses, people can draw inspiration from orchids as symbols of God's creation, spiritual growth, and enduring faith. BiblicalChronology.com. From the beautiful island of Barbados, I am Dr. William Anderson Gittins, DD. Thank you for listening to podcast 299. God bless.